The one thing we'll learn about organic molecules is that they can be really big molecules. And they do this by combining monomers into polymers. Monomers are the building blocks, the carbohydrate or lipid or amino acid or nucleic acid building blocks that make up polymers. And as I said, these polymers can get incredibly huge. For example, proteins, which are polymers of amino acids, can get really big. The monomer that makes up the protein is an amino acid shown in the center here. Notice the amino acid, as I said before, has an amino group at the top of the molecule shown here, and then it's got a carbon bridging that's connected to some other group that we'll talk about. We symbolize with R, but we'll talk about that later on when we get to the amino acids. And then there's a carboxyl group at the other end of this amino acid. And by stringing these together, these monomer amino acids together, we get something called a protein. This protein can be incredibly big. The biggest protein known is a protein called titin, 34,350 amino acids. So it's got 34,350 monomers strung together into this huge polymer. So huge that in fact it has a molecular weight of 3.8 million Daltons. Remember, I defined 1 Dalton as an atomic mass unit, which is the weight of a hydrogen atom. So this weighs as much as 3.8 million hydrogen atoms. That's a very large molecule. As big as that is, it's still smaller than a bigger molecule which is found in every cell of your body, and that's the molecule of DNA, the genetic code, the code of life. That's a polymer of nucleic acids. The monomer is a nucleic acid, shown here. This is adenine, which remember we said has 2 rings, so it's a purine, and that's shown in green here, connected to a sugar, which is shown in lilac or purple, in this case deoxyribose, and then that deoxyribose is connected to a blue box group, which is a functional group, remember, we called the phosphate group. Here the phosphate group has lost its hydrogens, has donated those already, so we've still got a phosphorus. It's still bound, in this case, to 4 oxygens, still a phosphate group. But 2 of those oxygens have lost their hydrogen, and so they're represented with a negative charge to them. When we string together those nucleic acid monomers into a polymer, we call that DNA or RNA, and this can form some even larger molecules than the largest proteins. So for example, human chromosome 1, which is the largest of the human chromosomes, we'll learn later that chromosomes are numbered from largest to smallest, so the largest human chromosome is human chromosome 1. Chromosome 1 is one continuous strand of DNA with 247 million base pairs. Those 247 million base pairs have a molecular weight of approximately 80 billion Daltons, or if you will, 80 gigadaltons. That's the same weight as approximately 80 billion hydrogen atoms. So these can form very, very big molecules. I skipped over, but we'll come back to the carbohydrates. Carbohydrate monomer shown here at upper left, and a carbohydrate polymer. An example of a carbohydrate polymer would be this particular carbohydrate, which is strung together through its oxygen atoms to form a 4-carbohydrate structure called the blood type O carbohydrate. So when we connect this to the cell membrane and we show this on the outside of a cell to identify that cell as a red blood cell of group O, then we call that the blood group O antigen. or it's a carbohydrate molecule which is connected to the surface of the cell, which makes a group of sugars, so a polymer of carbohydrates forming blood group O. We'll look at all of these, examples of all of these later on, so this is just an introduction to that idea.